Happy New Year and welcome to the online service of the Unitarian Universalist Church of Urbana-Champaign. I am Panay Beckett, a member of the worship committee, coming to you live this morning from our sanctuary. These beautiful flowers were brought to us today by Julia Freeman. Thank you, Julia. We are a church of many theologies, a justice-centered, multi-faith congregation that values deeds above creeds, a religious community that strives to build beloved community in the here and now. You may be joining us today from across the world or from down the street. Wherever you are, please know that this community, this service, is here for you in whatever form you find us. Our theme this morning is Awe and Reverence, a fitting theme for ushering in the new year with its promises, anticipated joys, and avenues for service. When I woke up this morning, and I'd go and let my dog out the door, I was in awe. And I thought, oh my gosh, my yard is salt and pepper with the snow. It was just beautiful. And I thought, I guess Mother Nature reads our e-news and knew about this service. As the worship committee discussed various possibilities for our time together, we were in full agreement on one point in particular: our desire to set aside the trials and tribulations of 2021 to search for inspiration, respite, even some lightheartedness, as you may have guessed from Juan's humorous prelude. We even consulted the UU Hysterical Society to get into the spirit of awe with a side of laughter and a cup of coffee. It is our hope that the music, images, and reflections we offer will invite you to celebrate this new year with humor, gratitude, and astonishment. If you want to follow along with the written order of service, you can find that link just below this video or on our website. As one of our practices together each Sunday, we begin with the land acknowledgement. Land acknowledgement of indigenous nations of this land. Wherever you are listening, please bring to mind the indigenous peoples of your place. There will be a moment of silence after the acknowledgement, and in that silence, I invite you to consider something you might do beyond this honoring to make a difference for Native nations today. We recognize and acknowledge that we gather today on indigenous land, taken through deception, coercion, and violence. We acknowledge the continued displacement and oppression of Native people and honor their commitments to survival, identity, and protection of our world. Thank you.
Good evening, Worship Committee. Thanks for zooming in. The meeting will now come to order. Our first agenda item tonight is replacing a burnt-out light in the sanctuary. How many UUs does it take to screw in a light bulb?
One?
At most one.
Don't we have to go through the property committee for that?
Well, if it's in the sanctuary, then it's the worship committee, but we have to check with finance.
Didn't we ask Brian?
Okay, but KB is here. Let's just ask KB.
Oh, I think we should ask Sally.
I think we should ask Becky. So she's the board chair.
I think we should ask Peggy who to ask.
Good idea, Jennifer. I'll send her an email right now with the thread COVID protocols for hybrid services.
Okay, while Janet's doing that, let me just posit that we really need to have respect for the worth and dignity of every light bulb.
Even if it's dead.
Wait a minute. When did we decide on only one light bulb? And when did we agree that light bulbs would be our light source of choice?
We do draw illumination from many sources.
You know, I do have a blessing specifically for light bulbs.
The light bulb has to want to change.
Well, we welcome the light bulb wherever it is in its journey. To be loved here, it doesn't have to be screwed in.
Or alive. But I do think light bulb changing needs to be an intergenerational activity.
Hey, wait a minute. While we've been talking, Tim changed the light bulb.
Okay, so it took 9 of us plus Tim.
Problem
Problem
solved.
solved.
Yay!
Under the right circumstances, playing with fire is a delight. Imagine being gathered around a fire pit as the crackling flames invite us to sing, dance, and toast a marshmallow or two. Our chalice invites us to play, although with ideas rather than marshmallows. The flame encourages us to explore who we are, who our neighbors are, and where we are on our spiritual journeys. Today, we light this chalice in the spirit of play. Let us trust the light to guide us in this hour and in the days to come, finding joy along the way. Nice. Okay, it's more fun that way.
As a kid, I always wanted to be a Christian. My friend Carolyn went to church where if you were well behaved, you got marshmallows and the love of Jesus. If you were badly behaved, you only got the love of Jesus. And I wanted to go. But I was pretty sure that we weren't church people in my family. Church families always started meals by telling Jesus about all the things that they were grateful for. My family usually started meals by arguing about whose turn it was to do the dishes. Also, my family celebrated Santa Claus Christmas instead of Jesus Christmas. I was pretty sure if you believed in God, you had to celebrate Jesus Christmas. Oh, and we believed in evolution, and you had to believe in God or evolution. That's how it worked. There were these two big guys with white beards named Darwin and God. If you chose the Darwin one, you believed about monkeys and the universe being really old. If you chose the God one, you believed about a garden called Eden, and you said grace and you went to church. Eventually, I worked up the guts to ask my mom if there was a God. I found her in the kitchen, my mom, not God, and I asked her the big question. And she stopped what she was doing and she stared into space really hard, like she was focusing on it because it was super important. That is not what was happening. Turned out she was trying to convert the butter in her recipe from grams to ounces, so I asked her again, and she said she was baking and not to bother her because did I want pie or didn't I want pie? I left her alone because God, pie. And on the way out, she told me to go ask my dad because he loves pointless questions with no answer. So I found my dad. And I asked him, and he told me he didn't believe in God the way Carolyn did, but that he wanted to show me something. And he wrote something down on a piece of paper. And he handed it to me, and he said, "For me, this is scripture." I was like 8. I didn't know what scripture was. So then he said it was math. I did know what math was, and it was not this. This side of the equation with the equal sign and the minus and the 1, that looks like math, sure. But what is going on over here? The E is language arts. So is the I, which my dad said stood for imaginary numbers. If there is one place you are not supposed to use your imagination, it's in math class. And then the squiggle, he said this was the drawing of a pie, which is art class, but this looks nothing like a pie, which is remarkable because how hard is it to draw pie, Dad? It's a circle. I told my dad that even though I was his third child, he still had to make an effort with me. Then my dad told me that someday I would grow up and that I would take advanced mathematics and I would learn to understand this equation and how it ties the whole world together. And I did grow up and I did take advanced mathematics and I still have no flipping idea what that equation means, but I do know this. I know that the face my dad made when he talked about the laws of physics and mathematics is the same look of reverence I see on the faces of people at worship. Science made my dad a part of something so huge and so elegant that it is a miracle that it even exists. It's a miracle we get to understand even this tiny sliver of the world that we do understand. And it is a miracle that we get to use math and science to take that understanding and to join together from around the world and through history and build bridges and buildings and invent medicine and travel into space. It is a miracle how science allows us to be part of a journey of understanding that reaches deep into history and far into the future. We think of science and religion as in opposition to each other somehow. Whenever people talk like that, I think of my dad and the expression on his face as he drew that incomprehensible set of squiggles on the page and handed it to me like a man handling scripture. That drawing that to him was the shadow of God, cast across the page so that parts of it could be seen by humans. We each have these things, these places or these passions that are sacred to us. What kind of world would it be if instead of starting with, "What's your name? What do you do for a living?" we asked, "What gives you a sense of awe and reverence?" Pleased to meet you. My name is Liz. For me, it's the river in my hometown and the practice of singing around a campfire with others. Oh, and words. What is it for you?
morning, everyone. My name is Rose St. Clair, and I'm the coordinator for religious exploration and engagement here at UUCUC. This morning, I wanted to talk to you about the ideas of awe and reverence, and some other words we might use to think about awe and reverence are words like wonder and amazement, or prize, admiration, treasure, and adoration. I also wanted to share with you some words from writer and poet Shel Silverstein that I hope will bring you in to thinking about what brings you that sense of delight, of awe and reverence. If you are a dreamer, come in. If you are a dreamer, a wisher, a liar, a hoper, a prayer, a magic bean buyer, if you're a pretender, come sit by my fire, for we have some flax golden tales to spin. Come in, come in.
Good morning and a joyous new year. My name is Janet Ravel Barrett, and I'm pleased to be the chair of the worship committee. You can probably tell that we had a romp of a time putting together both the humorous elements that come together in this service, as well as those that we hope you find awe-inspiring, and that encourage you to think about the moments of awe in your life. Each Sunday, we bring our individual joys, sorrows, concerns to our time together, and we encourage you also to bring those to your mind, and there is time for you to submit those to be read aloud by following the Joys and Sorrows at uucuc.org. There you go, I got it in the right order. So that it can be read aloud after our blessing song, and we encourage you to do that. As you listen to the blessing song, have that be a time of healing, a time of reflection for you, and please, again, we invite you to share whatever is on your heart, whatever joy or sorrow we can share with our congregation this morning.
Within you, guide your way home. May the long time sun shine upon you. All love surround you, and the pure, pure light that's within you, guide your way home. May the long time sun shine upon
We have a joy from Mick McEnroe, probably echoed by many of us, especially those of us who cherish wintertime. Mick says, "My joy, it snowed." Christine Cahill shares the joy of being together with her two daughters, Emmy and Sadie, bonus daughter, Colleen, and her husband, Tony, and most importantly, 16-month-old grandson, Jack. So glad to have access to this shield test at the U of I that made us feel safe gathering in the midst of this COVID surge. Husband Michael cooked for us for a whole week. It was magical. And I would just underscore the science magic of the SHIELD group at the U of I, who's just been extraordinary through this whole challenging time of the pandemic to help us all feel more safe. Julie Lout says, after canceling our New Year's plans to limit the spread of COVID locally, it was a joy to gather spontaneously online with our trivia community for some much needed laughter. No matter how far apart we are, it helps to be reminded that we are not alone. I would just add to that collection of joys and sorrows that if yours was not read today and comes in a little bit later, then my phone can catch it. We'll make sure that it's included in the e-news. I want to hold up this morning on our hearts those displaced by the wildfires in Colorado, those persons who are delayed from returning to their homes and workplaces for various reasons in the delays affecting the entire country, and those whose lives are directly affected by this COVID surge. And I want to hold up and share particular strength to all of those who are making consequential decisions in this time about our public health and safety. Sometimes we forget that that burden is heavy, and we are grateful for those who are willing to bear that burden on the behalf of all. So as we think about this holiday period and moving in the next week to whatever comes next, whatever joy you experienced in coming together with your family and loved ones and the warmth that you experienced, as well as the grace that we have found in solitude for those of us who were not able to join with our families, we hold all of that as important. We share the known and heard joys and sorrows, as well as those unexpressed, and those we keep close to our hearts as well. We'll now have a time of reflection and meditation and prayer during a moment of musical meditation with Juan on the piano. As Unitarian Universalists, we acknowledge that we're part of the sacred web of life, the web of our connections with one another, the wider community, and the world. In that spirit, we always share half of our Sunday offering with an organization that is in alignment with our UU values. And we bring special recognition and gratitude for those who served in the past month or so on the Shared Offering Committee as they reviewed submissions for organizations that would be part of this support in the coming year. During this month of January 2022, the congregation will support the Refugee Center, which is well known to many of us. We're especially pleased this morning to hear from Lisa Wilson, the Executive Director, who will describe the crucial services that the Refugee Center provides for individuals and families in our community. And after her announcement, the offering will be taken. You can look on screen for directions about how to earmark your contribution toward the Refugee Center.
Good morning and Happy New Year. Thank you for inviting me to join you this morning. My name is Lisa Wilson. I'm the Executive Director of the Refugee Center in Champaign. I'm especially pleased to be here this morning in light of our long relationship with the Unitarian Universalist Church of Urbana-Champaign. For several decades, you supported our mission by hosting our offices in your church and supporting our programs. We are forever grateful for your kindness and your support. The Refugee Center was founded in 1980 by Vietnamese refugees as a way to help other newly arrived refugees acclimate to American culture and provide services commonly needed by this population. Since then, the Refugee Center has expanded its scope to assist all refugees, immigrants, and political asylees, regardless of country of origin. The mission of the Refugee Center is to provide immigrants with a comprehensive program of orientation and adjustment services to facilitate economic self-sufficiency. In addition to translation, some examples of these services include assistance with public benefit applications, school and ESL registration, job applications, direct assistance applications, healthcare and legal referrals, and cultural orientation. The Refugee Center is also a remote resettlement agency through the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops, which is one of 9 nationwide resettlement organizations that are contracted through the U.S. Office of Refugee Resettlement to place refugees and special immigrant visa holders within the U.S. After the fall of the Afghan government and subsequent withdrawal of U.S. troops from Afghanistan, it was the Office of Refugee Resettlement that was responsible for the placement of tens of thousands of Afghans fleeing the Taliban. After their perilous escape, Afghans were processed at overseas locations, then transferred to several different military installations across the U.S. There they received food, shelter, medical exams and immunizations, and were vetted for security purposes. As local U.S. ties and resettlement partners were identified, Afghans were assigned to different resettlement agencies. Then they received their location assignments and airline tickets. To date, the Refugee Center has welcomed 26 Afghans to Champaign-Urbana. We expect 4 more arrivals in January and hope to increase that number with the support of our grantors, donors, and our community. I would like to thank the UU and its Immigration Justice Task Force for hosting the Sangar family of 9 while we found a permanent home for them. It is difficult to find suitable, affordable housing for a family of this size on such short notice. They are grateful for your kindness and support. They now live in an apartment in Urbana where the kids will start school this week. As our new Afghan friends start a routine, we hope that there will be an opportunity for the UU Church to be involved in their journey. Both families will need assistance adjusting to their new lives in the U.S. The 11 individual Afghan men that have resettled here are primarily concerned about their families back in Afghanistan. Many are hiding from the Taliban and are in need of money. Unfortunately, sending money directly from the U.S. to Afghanistan is not possible at this time. We are hoping that the U.S. government and international aid agencies can quickly work out a way to support the families left behind in the chaos. In the meantime, the men will need support to clear legal hurdles in order to gain asylum or legal permanent status that they need in order to apply for permission for their families to join them here. It is unclear right now how long this process may take, especially without an Afghan Adjustment Act that would give those fleeing the Taliban permanent resident status. Then there is the problem of physically getting across the border or on a plane out of Afghanistan. Eventually, it is our hope that all the individual men will be able to get their families resettled here in the U.S. When that happens, our community will need to step up once again to assist our Afghan neighbors. Thank you for your support.
What you will hear next are responses to the question posed in the UU Hysterical Society video that we borrowed earlier in the service. What brings a sense of awe and reverence in your life? What are the sources for those wonderful, inspiring feelings? You'll hear from Julie Laut, Kiri Fagan-Olmschneider, Celia Barbieri, and Teresa Benson as they answer the question. And take it as well as an invitation to reflect on that question in your own life. Perhaps you will be so moved to share your answer with those around you or in writing with others.
Ever since I was a little girl, I have loved books and loved reading. My mom was the elementary librarian at my school, and I took pride in having read every single book in that little library. We didn't have a bookstore in town, so my favorite ways to acquire books were either filling out the scholastic order that my teacher would give us, or when the bookmobile came to town, and I could go up those stairs and into that little vehicle and find a few books to take home and add to my bookshelf. It was magical. I continued to read throughout elementary school and into middle school, and then my love of reading evolved beyond just sort of an escape to recognizing the richness of different authors from different places and the way that people could use words to transport me to say things maybe that I was thinking and didn't know how to put into words, or to tell me something completely new about the world. I still remember reading The Color Purple by Alice Walker, and this book being put into my hands by my English teacher transformed the way that I thought about Black feminists and writers, and opened up a completely new world to me. And in fact, I ended up naming my child after the main character in that book. I also am completely awed by books like Margaret Atwood's The Handmaid's Tale, which has been amazing to see it come back after all this time. Every book by Kent Harif that I've ever read has awed me in his ability to capture the very little tiny part of this country that I grew up in. He calls it Holt, Colorado, but it's actually about Yuma, Colorado. And if you've been there, if you've driven down that main street and you read the way he describes it, you know where he's talking about. I was so awed by The World According to Garp that the cover fell off, and I think I dropped it into my bathtub at some point. And this book, A Suitable Boy by Vikram Seth, was one of the first books that I read based in South Asia, and I still remember giving my good friend Sanjay a long list of words for him to tell me what they meant, because I hadn't been familiar with all of these things that were happening in South Asia and India. I still read at this point sometimes 2, 3, or 4 hours a day. And although a lot of the books that I read are time fillers, mysteries, and things that I sometimes even forget I've read, every once in a while I find a piece, a passage, a storyline, a character that just strikes awe in me. And I'm always looking for that each time I open a new book. And I'm open to recommendations, so if you've got them, send them my way.
After watching the video on reverence for weird things, I immediately realized that this year I have been awed by the miracle of creation, both human creation and that of the earth. When I was a child, my mom gave me a little patch of soil and let me plant some seeds. I can still remember the wonder I felt at seeing new life emerging from the earth. I feel like that sense of wonder has never left me. I start my own seeds, and so I still experience the process of putting seeds into soil and then waiting impatiently for little green shoots to pop up. I watch in awe as those tiny little seeds turn into seedlings and then into large plants that grow delicious vegetables. No matter how many years I garden, it still seems like a working of magic that earth and water and sun can produce food from almost nothing. The other way that I have been experiencing awe is through the process of weaving. Weaving is all about controlling a bunch of little threads. A loom is basically just a tool that lets you control lots of threads and make them go exactly where you want. Before even starting to put threads on the loom, I have to plan exactly what the design is going to be. The process of setting up the loom usually takes a couple days, so by the time I actually sit down to weave, a lot of anticipation has built up. The first time that I throw the shuttle and actually see my idea become realized into a piece of cloth awes me every time. The fact that a weaver can take something that they see in their mind and use a relatively simple tool to direct hundreds or thousands of threads to create exactly the piece of cloth that they imagined never gets old. This miracle of creation is not exclusive to weavers, of course, but is shared by woodworkers, painters, potters, engineers, and many others. Weaving is just the type of creating that I experience firsthand. One thing that weaving and gardening have in common is that people have been doing them for a very long time. I'm sure that people in many times and cultures, especially those whose survival depended on their ability to grow food, felt the same awe that I feel in seeing seeds emerge from the soil. People have been weaving in one form or another for over 9,000 years, so weaving is also an ancient part of human culture. Whenever I direct those little threads and see my cloth emerging on the loom, I feel connected to all those weavers that came before me. Although the techniques that weavers use may differ, the fundamental process of turning thread into cloth is much the same. I am awed to be connected to such a long tradition of creation. Especially during a time that feels full of uncertainty, it is comforting to think about those things that endure and to see small miracles emerging from the soil and on the loom.
I live close to Busey Woods, which is where I'm standing right now, and behind me is what I like to think of as a patch of ruins. There are a lot of these little remnants of human-constructed structures that are being overtaken by trees and undergrowth and moss. There are a lot of these types of ruins out here in Busey Woods. And when I walk through these woods, there's a lot of things that give me a sense of awe and reverence, whether it's the blue sky up above, or the leaves falling to the ground, or in summer or spring, the verdant plenty that's all around me. But perhaps the thing that brings me the largest sense of awe and the most respect and reverence for nature is these little patches of ruins. Because to me, this represents something beautiful about the strength of nature. It teaches me, and I hope it can teach you, that as we continue to develop and grow, nature will always be there reclaiming what we place in its domain. So even as we damage it and contribute to habitat loss, there's always going to be some building somewhere that's being overtaken, like these ruins are behind me. And to some people that might feel sort of dark or scary or make life and construction seem futile, but to me it gives me a sense of peace. We all learn about the circle of life in kindergarten, first grade, whenever you learned it, from birth to death to decomposition. And seeing so many concrete structures, human-made structures, be reclaimed by nature and covered again back to where they came from is really so wonderful to me. So I wanted to film this out here on site so that you could see it. And I really encourage you to come out here and look, take a stroll through Busey Woods. It's not that big of an area, but if you're walking, you can really get lost in it. Hopefully not too lost. And I encourage you to look at these structures and think about what they would feel like to you, because for me, they really give me a sense of awe and reverence.
Mary Oliver offers instructions for living a life, which include the following. Pay attention. Be astonished. Tell about it. In many ways, these are not only instructions for living a life, but also instructions for living a life of wonder and awe. During this service, we have shared images and experiences that have led to a sense of reverence and awe for those in our congregation and others in the wider world. Some of these experiences have been in new places or unfamiliar places. Some have been spontaneous and unplanned, while others came from paying attention and being mindful in the moment as it unfolds. Regardless of how they have occurred, they have turned ordinary moments into awe-inspiring delights. These experiences seem to align with research on awe that's been compiled by the staff at the Greater Good Science Center in Berkeley, California. They have found that researchers define awe as a response to things that we perceive as vast and that transcends how we understand the world. Additionally, experiencing awe can help us feel connected to something larger than ourselves, which can enhance happiness and physical health while reducing feelings of entitlement and increasing generosity. So to increase your chances of bringing more awe into your life, we would like to end this service with instructions on taking an awe walk as described in the Greater Good Toolkit, a science-based practice for a meaningful life. So to start, turn off your cell phones and see if you can approach the walk as if a newborn baby, new to all the sensory input surrounding you. Then follow these steps. First, take a deep breath in. Count to 6 as you inhale and 6 as you exhale. Feel the air move through your nasal passages and hear the sound of your breath. Remember to come back to your breath throughout the walk. As you start to walk, feel your feet on the ground and listen to the surrounding sounds. Shift your awareness now so that you are open to what is around you, to things that are vast, unexpected, things that surprise and delight. Take another deep breath in. Again, count to 6 as you inhale and 6 as you exhale. Let your attention be open in exploration for what inspires awe in you. Is it a wide landscape? The small patterns of light and shadow? Let your attention move from the vast to the small. Continue your walk, and every so often, bring your attention back to your breath. Count to 6 as you inhale, and count to 6 as you exhale. Notice, really notice, the multitude of sights, sounds, smells, and other sensations that are dancing through your awareness, usually undetected. As you develop the habit of taking walks in this way, you may open yourself to frequent experiences of awe and delight in even the seemingly ordinary aspects of life. You may even want to take note of these moments and share them with others.
Let it be a dance we do. May I have this dance with you through the good times and the bad times too. Let it be a dance. Let a dancing song be heard. Play the music, say the words, and fill the sky with sailing birds. Let it be a dance, let it be a dance, let it be a dance. Learn to follow, learn to lead. Feel the rhythm, feel the need. To reap the harvest, plant the seed. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance we do. May I have this dance with you through the good times and the bad times too. Let it be a dance. Everybody turn and spin. Let your body learn to bend. And like a willow with the wind, let it be a dance, let it be a dance, let it be a dance. A child is born, the old must die. A time for joy, a time to cry. Take it as it passes by. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance we do. May I have this dance with you through the good times and the bad times too. Let it be a dance. Morning star comes out at night. Without the dark there is no light. If nothing's wrong, then nothing's right. Let it be a dance, let it be a dance, let it be a dance. Let the sunshine, let it rain. Share the laughter, bear the pain. And round we go again. Let it be a dance.
Let us sing the magic of imagination by which we know one another and learn the lives of eras gone by. Let us sing the magic of creation by which we build the world of our soul and teach its wisdom to others, young and old. Let us sing the magic of our lives together, holding and shaping by the moment of breath from heart to lung, all new life that is to come. Go now with singing, go now with magic in your fingertips. Touch this world with life.